Red Soup is here with Jahman Warren Bay and Jack Weber. Talk about this week's in sports. All right, start off. Andrew Luck, 3 overtime win against USC. Start off, Jahman.
Well, for starters, I'll be honest. I didn't watch the game, but from what I saw of the game, I felt like USC, and from what I saw the replays of the game, USC should have won the game. And for what really has me fired up about this topic is people are already ordaining Andrew Luck as the best quarterback ever. And I don't see it. USC won the game, would have won the game if they would have given Lane Kiffin that timeout with 1 second left, but they didn't. Unless they would have missed the field goal, which is probably unlikely. So I don't know. I don't see the hype. When I watched him in the Orange Bowl, he played well. He played well in the pro system, but he did not look to me. He didn't jump off the screen to me like, wow, this guy will be the best ever. I think he'll be maybe at the next level. He'll be a very good pick. I think he's definitely the number 1 overall pick in the draft. But I don't think right now he is the best ever. I don't see that. Jack?
All right, now I watched the whole game. I saw the first half, and then Andrew Luck and Stanford, they were down for most of the second half. And he led a pretty nice comeback, get them back in the game, He had 2 rushing touchdowns. They were great runs, too, close to the goal line. He was making plays with his feet. And the thing is, you may not see it, but what he's so good at is he's a master of their offense. And he's perfected it. He knows how to get that team working. He knows how to get them running. And in overtime, you just saw this take over. They didn't struggle at all. They marched the 25 yards, no troubles. And he just took over the game.
But I'll give you an example. When I watched Cam Newton play last year, I was like, wow, this guy really there's a chance that he could be very good in the NFL. I reserved my judgment on him for the draft because I was too unsure, because he had some really, really, really good games and he had some really, really bad games. When I watch Andrew Luck, I don't see that. I don't see, wow, this guy is amazing. But he looks like just another pocket quarterback.
We can't compare Cam Newton and Andrew Luck here. Cam Newton is the next generation of the quarterback in the NFL. Andrew Luck is the quarterback that's been in the NFL for years now. He's the prototypical pocket passer, and that's what the NFL lives on, the passing game. Cam Newton is a totally different kind of player and brings a totally different aspect to the NFL game, but Andrew Luck provides that pocket passer who can perfect an offense, and he makes every throw. He can make plays with his feet even, making him maybe not better than Peyton Manning now, but in years to come, with someone that smart, that much talent.
If we had more time, I would just go off on that last comment.
I think Cam Newton, though, had more skills around him, more skilled players in the SEC.
What?
I would actually disagree because Stanford, Chris Owusu, they got a good running back. All right, next time.
All right,
let's go into the next
Another great game Saturday night, Ohio State against Wisconsin. Jack, start us off. What was your first impressions about the game?
I got to say, this was one of the best Ohio State games to watch since the 2002 National Championship win. All week people were talking about if we have any chance to win, Braxton Miller needs to have a breakout week. I heard people saying he needed to complete 8 passes. Well, he completed 7. We still won. Our defense, great job, shut down Monty Ball. That Wisconsin offense, best in the nation. They're scoring a lot of yards.
They're running their O-line.
They looked unscathed. No one could stop them. But Ohio State had an answer and just shut them down. And Braxton Miller made some big plays in that second half.
Jahman?
I was a surprise. I'll be honest with you. Going into the game, even though I picked Ohio State to win on the show last week, I thought Wisconsin was going to pull it out. Because, like I said last week, Ohio State is so young, they're unpredictable. You cannot just look at the stats and say this is the team that they are. Their defense will always keep them in games. I think they have one of the best defenses in the country by far, but you don't see that because they're on the field so much, because their offense really, which is the youngest part of their team without the experience of DeVere Posey, and they just got Dan Herron back, 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, and he's made a huge difference.
Exactly. Without that experience and leadership that they should have had earlier on in the season, where you can work on those little technical things with Braxton Miller and the younger wide receivers, they missed out on that. So every week, their offense is kind of like you're rolling dice. You don't really know what you're going to get.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Do you think this was Braxton Miller's breakout game?
That's what I'm saying. I reserve my judgment on that because you don't really know. I think that he will be very productive, and I think that he will probably end up being better than Terrell Pryor, which is Terrell Pryor is like what most people would agree was probably the best quarterback that we had at Ohio State of the past decade, even though he didn't win the Heisman.
You can argue Troy Smith.
You can argue Troy Smith, and I think Braxton Miller is yet to break out as a passer.
Mhm.
Obviously, he's
Only 4 passes in the
he has
first half.
spectacular running ability, but his game this season is still yet to come where he breaks out as a passer. All of his passing stats came from the long touchdown at the very end of the game, and everything else was just situational, 5-yard slants, like 2-yard hitches,
A lot of running
short
plays.
passes, a lot of
Only
runs.
four passing plays in the first half. But do you think against Indiana coming this Saturday, will the game change? Will the game plan change?
I think that was this is what I was gonna say. I think that win was very good for a young team like Ohio State because they finally, you saw them how when they won it, you kind of watched the players have this sigh of relief over their face, like we finally did it. Because if you look at the Michigan State game, Nebraska, those were games that we were in and we probably should have won. If you're talking about a more experienced team, I think we beat Michigan State. We definitely beat Nebraska. I don't think that comeback happens at all. And I just see this team now starting to mature. And I would be, if I'm a team in the Big Ten, I'm very scared of Ohio State going forward. Especially, I mean, we can get to this later, but especially if Luke Fickell remains a head coach and you don't bring in a new system and change everything, this team is very deadly because now that they have this experience and playing in a tougher Big Ten than Ohio State has played in previous years, this team definitely will have national championship.
We'll see with Ohio State later this season. Moving to the NFL, Tebow and the Broncos getting blown out against the Lions. Jack?
I did not get to catch this game, but I heard it was a rough game for Tim Tebow. His completion percentage was under 50%. You know, nothing was really happening. Detroit, they have a good defensive line, but I think a quarterback could throw on them, and he obviously didn't have success. Granted, you know, he lost his number 1 receiver. Brandon Lloyd was traded. Willis McGahee's out with another injury. No Sean Moreno's so spotty. So they're kind of asking him to do everything, but the Lions just fed off him. And
Now, do you think he deserves the starting role in the Denver lineup as quarterback?
yes, I do.
You do?
I think they're starting new. They're starting over, and they want to build around him. And so they should go from there with him starting, building a team around him.
Jahman, your take?
I've been waiting to talk about this all day long. I was driving here on the radio. I was driving here. I had car problems this morning, and I had to listen to Mike and Mike in the morning, and I had to listen to Chris Carter on the Chris Carter Hour talk about how terrible Tim Tebow was. And they brought in Merrill Hodge. Who is Merrill Hodge? Talking about his mechanics aren't good. He doesn't throw well. That doesn't matter. The guy can win you games. If you actually look at the game, Denver's first possession, they scored a touchdown, but it was called not a touchdown. And John Fox didn't challenge it. And what happened? Denver punts the ball, and then they go back to the offense that they ran last week in Miami when they started to become down. Tim Tebow plays well in a no-huddle, spread out offense where he's in shotgun, making plays, being more mobile. Once they put him in the I formation, tell him to hand the ball off, throw from the pocket. People say that's the NFL style, but that's not how he plays well. He plays better when he's spread out, and that's not what they did to help him win. And I disagree with the point that you make. They're trying to build around him. I really don't think that's what they're trying to do. Maybe this is coming from a more cynical point of view. I don't think John Fox and John Elway really think that he can play. And I think it's kind of ridiculous. I'm almost getting to the point where I don't think he should be their starter I think they really need to trade him because they don't think that he can win. They don't think that he can play. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. Because I'm telling you right now, that is a huge momentum for you're starting your first game of the season at home. And you score a touchdown in your first drive. First of all, everyone in Denver, all the fans, the whole stadium's into it after that. You have the entire stadium backing you. Your wide receivers start to see, wow, you know, maybe this guy, maybe there's something to this guy. Your whole team plays with a completely different swagger when you score that opening touchdown. And then, you gotta admit, Tim Tebow probably has the worst supporting cast ever.
Yeah,
like, Miami has a much better supporting cast than him, and they haven't won a game. Even the Colts have a better supporting cast than Tim Tebow. Who is his running back? No show Marino. He is wide receiver.
He's a bust.
Is Eric Dickerson. Like, yeah, he is a sure-handed receiver. He's not your number one guy.
He's a 2. He's a good 2. He's
Demarius Thomas is his other receiver, right?
It's another bust.
Another bust. He's playing, and his offensive line is horrible. It's
Porous.
absolutely
Porous.
horrible. You cannot expect this guy to come out and just dominate. He's not gonna light up the stat board, but he's gonna get your team to win.
Right.
And he has the leadership qualities to make this team better. But most people don't see that because they look at it, oh, his mechanics aren't good. Oh, his throwing motion not good. I even heard Chris Carter say his